Good afternoon, Stewart's Chapel. Brother Don and Don Counts here. We're at Stone Bridge Park. It's Wednesday devotion, and we're in Jonah. Again, I'm not sure exactly why God would have me be doing Jonah in these days, but that's where I'm at. We're looking at one verse, verse 3 of chapter 1. It says, "But Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord." From the presence of the Lord. The verse starts out with the strong three-letter word, "but." God had called Jonah, God had called a prophet that was named Dove to go to the people, to warn the people of Nineveh, a city where the wickedness had come before God. But Jonah, he doesn't say no. Jonah flees. Think about it. God says go, and Jonah flees. Those two strong words. One means go in the direction of, the other one goes away from. Literally, when he goes to Tarshish, he goes to the west. He was supposed to be going in the direction of Nineveh, which was to the east. He literally goes in the opposite direction. He goes and pays for his own trip to get as far away from what God had for him to do. What's interesting is God chose Jonah because Jonah is a proven prophet. God has used Jonah in the past. This is not Jonah's first time to hear God's voice and to be sent on a mission. He has been faithful. Jonah is not religious. Jonah has been a faithful servant of the Lord. He was all right doing so as long as the assignments were something that evidently that he wanted to do. But this assignment, Jonah did not want. These were Gentiles. These were not people that he liked. These were people that had done horrific things to the people of Israel. When he hears from God, he does arise. But the next word, he flees. He does exactly the opposite of what God wants. Have you ever caught yourself fleeing from what God desires? I'm afraid that most of us probably have that habit. I do that through busyness. I love to work, and so sometimes I will find myself avoiding doing what God wants me to do by running towards work, fleeing what He desires to work. Some people flee by procrastination. They'll do everything else, but some will flee by literally going in the opposite direction. You probably have heard me mention the unequally yoked passage probably more than any other pastor to you. It's not because you don't know it. The problem is that generally those who choose to ignore that passage literally run in the opposite direction. They do the opposite. But here's what I really want you to notice. Verse 3 ends with these words. He flees the presence of the Lord. You see, Jonah wasn't fleeing the work assignment. Jonah wasn't fleeing or running away from Nineveh. Jonah was running from the Lord. I don't know how he thought he could do that, but he put as much distance between him and what God wanted. He went into the very bottom of the depths of that ship in the dark hole and stayed there. He fled the presence of the Lord. Where are you in these days fleeing the presence of God? Love you, Stewart's Chapel.